Hey, good morning, and welcome to the Wednesday Wake Up from the Jersey Shore. I'm Chip Watson, Jersey Shore real estate experts brokered by eXp Realty. Hey, before we get into this week's real estate news, I had something to share that recently happened on a trip to Scotland with my family. I haven't been able to stop laughing about it. So while we're over there, my daughter Hallie went on to explain to my son Max what haggis truly is. Haggis, if you're not familiar, is all over the menu in Scotland as a very big local dish. So Hallie basically launches right into a fantastic story. And she explains that haggis's scientific name is Haggis scotus. And it's actually a small, shaggy, furry creature that lives up on the Scottish hillsides. And over the centuries of running around those hills, they've evolved where one side of their legs becomes longer than the other. This allows them to run around the slopes without toppling over. So this is where it gets interesting. There's actually two varieties of haggis. One runs clockwise while the other one runs counterclockwise. And the only time that they ever kind of meet is when they're coming from opposite sides or directions and they run smack into each other. That's basically nature's way of keeping the species moving along. And then as far as hunting them, it's almost too easy because they always run in the same direction. So all you have to do is jump out in front of it and scare it, and it'll turn around. And because the shorter leg will now be on the wrong side of the hill, it'll roll right down the hill and you can just pick it right up. So that's how it ends up with the famous Scottish dish. Now, Max found this whole thing credible. I mean, it's a good story. It was detailed. It had science-sounding words in it, but it was also coming from his sister. So he's sitting there doing the math, and it was plausible enough to be true. Suspicious enough that he's not going to fully commit because it's from his sister. Smart kid, actually. Here's the thing, though. In 2023, a survey of American tourists visiting Scotland found that 1 in 3 adults, not kids, adults, believed that the wild haggis was a real animal. 1/3. They heard the story, it sounded reasonable, and they went with it. There's even a taxidermy haggis on display in Glasgow, right next to the real dish to keep this joke and fictional joke going forward. The wild haggis story has been in the punchline since 1924, and people are still falling for it. So I bring that up because honestly, 1 out of every 3 buyers or sellers that I talk to at the shore, they've been told something that's equally as fictional about our market. That rules for condos have changed as far as lending. All the buildings are looked at the same. And also that the erosion of our beaches is not really a problem. They hear that, it sounds plausible, and they go with it. So let me be my daughter and without the sibling bias and tell you exactly what's going on. As of August 3rd, literally this past week, Freddie and Fannie Mac have eliminated what was known as the limited review process for condominium financing. It sounds like inside baseball, but stay with me because this one's pretty important. Here's what it used to mean. If you were a well-qualified buyer putting down 10% or more on a condo, lenders could take a shortcut. It was a streamlined review, check the basics, and they moved on. That shortcut is now gone. Every condo purchase with a conventional loan will now go through a full review. It will go through a review of the entire building's financial health. But let me break that down for you and just tell you what that affects. Because small buildings, 10 units or fewer, you're going to be in the clear. Freddie and Fannie have already expanded what they called a waiver of project review, and that used to cover buildings up to 4 units. Now it's going to cover up to units with 10. So if your building is small and standalone, the full review process will not apply to you. But here's the catch. If your building has between 5 and 10 units, which is part of a larger master plan community, that waiver goes away. If your building has 11 or more condominium units in it, it's going to have to go through a full review. They're going to go from top to bottom, no exceptions. So in order to pass, the building has to have the ability to clear every single one of these things at the same time. The reserve needs to be at least 10% of the annual assessment of income into the reserves, and that's going to rise to 15% come January of 2027. No more than 15% of owners can be more than 60 days behind on their dues. And single entity ownership in buildings of 21 or more units, no one can own more than 20% of those units. As far as insurance goes, the master policy deductible is capped at $50,000. If you're in a building that has commercial space, it cannot include more than 30% of the building. And for brand new condominiums, 50% of the units must already be sold. in order for it to be financed by Freddie and Fannie. So here's the good news for the shore. The old rule that made a building non-warrantable if more than 50% of the units were rented, that's gone as of March 18th. That rule was killing deals in our vacation markets where we have short-term rentals, and that restriction has been removed entirely. If you're a buyer, you need to ask me before you fall in love with a building. We know which associations in Cape May County are well run and which ones have been kicking the can down the road. So if you're a seller in a condominium building, you got to talk to your HOA and make sure you guys are ahead of any issues. Okay, and now for the good news. I mean generally good news. Early this spring, Congressman Jeff Van Drew had announced nearly $100 million in federal funding for beach replenishment right here in Cape May County. Ocean City, Strathmere, Seattle City, Avalon, and Stone Harbor. Army Corps of Engineer projects are expected to be underway this summer. Some are happening right now, and they're supposed to be completed by 2027. So what does this matter to real estate? Well, it's because the beach is our biggest asset. Everything we sell down here, whether it's a condo 2 blocks from the sand or a single family home in Stone Harbor, that value of that property is tied to the health and width of that beach. Eroded beaches affect your flood insurance. They affect the ability to get a mortgage. They affect the perceived value of that property. So when nearly $100 million in Army Corps funding shows up to put fresh sand back on these beaches, that's a rising tide that lifts all boats down here. If you're on the fence about buying or think about what this signals, these communities are actively investing in their shorelines. And if you're thinking about selling, timing matters. Right now, the beach story is very positive. So here's where we are this week. The condo lending rules just changed in a meaningful way. Small buildings got some relief. Larger buildings, they face tighter scrutiny. If you've already been following the New Jersey rules for condominiums, your condominium should be in really good shape. And I trust that you have a solid board that's been looking out for you and your best interest. And almost $100 million in beach investment is headed to Cape May County. I've been doing this for over 20 years right here at the shore. My job is to make sure you have the right information at the right time to make smart decisions, not stories about funny creatures with uneven legs. If you have any questions on how this affects your specific property, just reach out. Call, text, email. I'm always here. So dream big because anything's possible. We look forward to seeing you on another Wednesday Wake Up.